everybody. Happy Wednesday. I am here with this great panel, which we'll introduce in a minute, to talk about unlocking the value of data and AI to drive customer experience. So I am joined by Purvi Doraiswamy, VP of Digital Operations for AARP. Christine Duque, global partner with IBM iX. She's my partner in crime in all things marketing transformation. And Colin Fleming, who's the Executive Vice President for Brand Marketing at Salesforce. So thanks for joining me this morning, gang. Looking forward to our conversation talking about AI and leveraging data and how we can drive better experiences. So let's start with you, Purvi, first here. In the Festival of Creativity, we were just talking about all things that we've been learning this week, which has been really exciting. So I'd love for you to kick us off and share how AARP is leveraging data and AI to drive better customer experiences.
Thanks, Jen. AI is the hot topic, and there have been so many great sessions about this. So I'll try to give you maybe just a different lens on how we as a brand are using data and AI to improve our customer experience. So I would say, we have been working with our data and building a consolidated view of our customer. We've been doing that for years, right? To be prepared to take advantage of this moment. In terms of AI, we've been using predictive AI and, building use cases, implementing more and more use cases. I would say that has really just amplified in the past year or so. And it's always, I think, for us, it's always tied back. So two things. One, our true north is we're a social mission organization. We are here to serve our members. So any use cases are always guided by, how is this going to serve the customer? And I think that's important for any organization. And then also, how does it tie back to our business? What use cases are really going to move the needle? So where we have implemented it is really like a lot of personalization use cases. We're using AI to improve the experience in emails, on our website, with what content we're serving up to users. In onboarding members, how do we deliver a better, more personalized experience with fewer touch points? And I think we've seen positive results and lifts across every single use case almost that we have live today. And I think we're testing and learning. There's a lot of new AI capabilities, and Gen AI is all of the buzz right now. Those use cases really aren't prudent for us today. There's a lot of risk from our perspective. I don't think the technology is yet mature enough. I think that will happen. So we're kind of keeping our eye on that. But right now, it's really where's the lowest risk and the biggest opportunity for gain and to serve our customers better. And we've seen, like I said, some really good early results. So that's where we are.
Great. So Christine, you spend day in and day out helping clients unlock their data, organizing their data and unlocking their data. So can you give us some examples of how you're working with clients to help organize their data, drive better customer experience, similar to what Purvi's talking about?
Yeah, companies like Purvi, like in financial services, are sitting on a wealth of data, and then you have other companies that don't have their own data, and they're dependent on other data sources. So the biggest thing is how do you get the data right? How do you get the data right? And that's having those conversations around creating that singular view of the customer, not just around their total relationship to you as your company, but also tying in all of the behavioral data. And so just really being able to democratize all of that data and then being able to demystify that data. So once you've got your data organized, how do you create that visualization so that marketers, anyone who's driving customer experience, can get the right customer insights to then operationalize, right? Where you're actually going to do next best action, next best offer, one-to-one personalization, one-to-many segmentation, all of those pieces. And that's really the work, right? It's really around data driving the lifeblood of marketing, and that's day in and day out. The biggest challenge for marketers, because marketers traditionally don't own their data.
Yeah, so Colin, there's a lot that Salesforce is doing in this space. Obviously, we work with you day in and day out as well. So can you talk to us about how Salesforce is helping marketers to activate their data?
Yeah, I think we're at this sort of this is going to borderline cliche, so I apologize for this. But, we're at the 70th year of Cannes here, and I think we probably has been said every year, but I firmly believe it now. We're sort of in this golden age of incredible opportunity with the ability of data and AI to truly connect with hyper-personalization and really rethink the customer experience from here on forth. And I think the best way to bring that to life is through stories, right? And one story that's really inspired me recently is Formula One. This is an explosion of popularity in Formula One. Obviously, it has been long popular in Europe, but in the U.S. has now exploded through Netflix and whatnot. There's 500 million fans, just an unbelievable growing 40% year on year. But only 1% of those fans actually get to go to a race. And so how does Formula One connect with that other 99%? And it's through data and AI, and it's Salesforce is helping them do that. But it's this unbelievable opportunity to truly get to an individual fan that has a passion for a particular driver, a particular team, and really data unlocks that. And I think it's a great opportunity. But for marketers, the big question is, well, how do I do that at scale? How do I think about combining all this data in one place and working with IBM and Salesforce and many others to really think about truly harmonizing data from across any organization into a single view of the customer and really using that to hyper-personalize the experience. For me, as a marketer, that is just the holy grail and something we've been looking forward to for a long time. And it's in front of us. We see it with customers now. We see it at Salesforce, and that's a really, really awesome opportunity for us all.
Yeah, we've been talking about data for a really long time and organizing data. So there's a lot of lessons learned, and maybe we could share some lessons learned with everybody here. Purvi, I'm sure you shared a little bit of that.
I think that one of the lessons learned for us, and one of the biggest challenges is, the technology is incredibly powerful, but as an organization, as an enterprise, the change management piece of it is really, really essential. And it's important to get that right because, there's a lot of talk about, is AI going to eliminate my job and make it obsolete? And I don't think that's the case at all, actually. But I feel like this change moment is different than other change moments maybe we've seen in our careers. It's not just like automation of a process. It really is, maybe you were doing your job before with like a shovel and now you have a bulldozer and you have to learn how to do it differently and how to use the tools that are available to you now. And for us, like for our marketers, it's thinking about sort of like putting yourself at a different place in the marketing funnel and how do you create more value and then how do you use the tools to automate and kind of amplify, right, things that you were doing before. So that change and, just the complexity of the change and the number of stakeholders and helping them to understand how to use the tools, what are the approved use cases, governance within the organization, that's complicated. And, we're learning as we go. We haven't gotten it all right, but I think, we have some time as the technology continues to mature, but I feel like the change piece of it is really important and a blind spot if you're not thinking about that right up front.
I agree with you. I think getting prescriptive about the use cases is one of them. Thinking through process first versus technology, I think is really important. That ties into the change management throughout, which is critical in any organization. I think it's also understanding that where we are from a technology perspective is that when you're investing in technology such as Salesforce, is that you're in a journey for transformation and that your organization is also going to mature in parallel to the tech. And it really has to be that transparent, larger transformation because it is about new ways of working, new ways of delivery that no one's ever really done before. And it's fast and ever changing. So we're talking about customer experience delivery for marketing, but then the customer engagement channels are starting to blur. So it's no longer about just marketing, but sales and service, just every single customer engagement touch point. And it's a very, very different way of thinking about that when you're delivering customer experiences.
Right, and being able to take advantage of the full power of the platform. So, Colin, how about you, lessons learned?
Yeah, I think, of course, I think we're at this point where we've been talking about data for a long time, but that's sort of table stakes now. It's sort of the beginning phase of this new era we're encountering with generative AI, of course. And I think it's sort of interesting that I don't see enough conversation yet here at Cannes about the implications and the world we're walking into and really thinking about trust. And it's really great to think about ChatGPT in an education environment or whatever, but when you start to think about in the context of a business and the need, the sort of inability to rely on it right now with hallucinations and whatnot, the trust implications we have to think about. We're just at the beginning of copyright issues, trademark issues, true privacy and trust issues, and I think that needs to be very quickly the conversation we move to, because when you start introducing customer data, business data, transactional data, financial data into a generative AI environment, the stakes change pretty materially and very quickly. And I think we're going to very quickly enter this new era of trusted AI, which I think is going to require a new level of sort of credibility from organizations and a new level of insight from us all.
Yeah. So, Colin, just some recent announcements with Salesforce,
Yeah.
and just was really great. There's a lot of trust conversations. How are you helping clients to create solutions like on-ramps to be able to deal with, to understand the trust elements and be able to really operationalize this and consider the use cases?
Well, like any big transformation we see, we've seen this with, of course, the cloud, social, mobile, where there's a little gold rush mentality happening right now. And everybody's just racing to this new state, which is awesome. And we're super all in. But you have to realize that there are implications of that. There are trust gaps. And when you're working with large banks or large healthcare organizations or insurance organizations, you've got to go to that next level. And so Salesforce has spent a lot of time thinking about, being in the predictive space since 2016, pioneering some technology that allowed us to bring trust into the experience. How do we think about this in the generative AI world, where we can use technologies like grounding and prompt engineering to really help us connect the dots between the power of these large language models and the sensitivity of our customer data, and find new ways to sort of ensure that we can do both in a trusted and secure way. And for us, that's the new era that we have to be talking about, because there's incredible power, but of course we have to be sensitive to our customers' data, privacy of information and whatnot. And I think that's where we spend a lot of our engineering horsepower on, is really that trust barrier. It's Salesforce's number one value, and that's most important for us.
Yeah, I thought it was great how Salesforce got into some granularity around creating that trust layer. So, Christine, you're spending a lot of time with clients, helping to advise them on use cases. So, talk to us about what kind of use cases are you hearing that clients are interested in? How are you advising clients around how to leverage Gen AI, obviously in this new era that we're in?
Right. I think there's a crawl, walk, run situation when it coming to AI and generative AI. Of course, number one is obviously getting your data right. It's super important to have your data house in order, because if you don't have that, none of these amazing capabilities will actually really work really well. I think the trust factor is really, really important, and transparency. And so when we're starting to talk to our clients about creating, different models and what we bring to the table to help bring AI at scale, is really thinking through end-to-end, the transparency around, the data and also the processes, because that's really, really important. And taking also into consideration industry and use cases, right? So when you're talking to retail CPG, that's a very, very different use case around how you're doing your data and how you need to protect your customers, as opposed to the highly regulated environments such as financial services, life science, healthcare. But even more important to really have that trust factor on the data, because customers really will engage with you as a brand if they trust you.
So, are you seeing certain things bubble to the top, such as customer service, certain things in marketing?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of chatter and conversation around how do we use this. So from a marketing perspective, there's a conversation on how this is improve workflows and try to accelerate, the speed of people learning the platform or being able to do things to accelerate doing their job in terms of coding and putting emails from a process perspective. There's obviously a lot of conversation around content and how can we use these tools to better create websites and things like that, and create the content a lot faster and put the speed to market. So there's a lot of conversation. There's other obviously use cases around customer service, et cetera, but it really depends on the clients and in the industry around where they're going. But I think that's where we're starting to see it more from a comfortable position from a process.
Right, intelligent workflows, trying to
Yes,
summarize
100%.
data. Yeah, and that's great. And actually, we saw that from Salesforce, which was really fantastic, embedded in the platform. So, Purvi, you had mentioned you're in a test and learn phase. So, how are you thinking about generative AI? Obviously, many of us have already been using AI in the workflows in the work that we're doing today. How are you thinking about prioritizing use cases? What's next for AARP?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, both Colin and Christine talked about the trust factor, and that is first and foremost for us, right? As AARP, we're a brand that our members have a very high level of trust in. And so making sure that we maintain that trust and have transparency is, first and paramount to us. So when we think about Gen AI, I think, we don't have use cases that are live yet, but I would anticipate maybe you know, what some of our first use cases might be. Maybe really, I would say, like building on like predictive use cases that we have today. So discovery, content discovery, and tools around, say, like complex topics like Medicare, right? We don't want someone to have to come to our website and peruse through 50 pieces of content to get to the right information, that nugget of information they're looking for. I would expect that, you know, Gen AI, predictive AI could help them to discover it and improve the content as well. I would also anticipate, you know, hyper-personalization, right? So the way we are going to talk to a prospect that is in their 40s is going to be different than a member in their 50s or a member in their 60s or 70s. And just, you know, personalizing the information, the marketing, and growing the market and the audience, I think, is where Gen AI might come into play. But I don't feel like the technology is yet at a point where we'll start to implement those. I think, you know, as we build in the trust layer and all of that, like more of that will come. But I would say that's what the early use cases will likely be.
That's probably where they'll go. So if we think about fast forwarding a year, obviously the buzz has been all about Gen AI this year. So a little prediction here. Let's do a quick round of where do we think, this Colin, will start with you. Where do we think we'll be next year, and what will the conversation be in Cannes next year around?
I don't even know what's going to happen next week with the speed in which Gen AI is moving. I mean, genuinely, look at what's happened in the last 4 months. And so I think fast forward to the year, I think I mentioned the gold rush mentality earlier. I think clearly I think a lot of companies are all in. And if anybody says they have the answer for what a year looks like from now, it's probably lying to you or hallucinating, you might say. But I think that there are some values that will surface, and I think we saw this with social, we've seen this with mobile. You're going to see where companies' values are. There's going to be companies that value growth over trust. There's going to be companies that value trust over growth, and I think I'm going to bet on the companies that value trust, and I think that's the next phase we're going to have to get into. I think there's a lot of conversations around trademark, copyright, trust that I think we're just at the beginning of, and you know, we've been playing around a lot with text to video and text to speech models and uncovering a lot of true, like, ethics-based conversations, true genuine usage conversations with what we're walking into, and I don't think there's a clear answer. So I think I'm looking forward to that sort of developing, and you're going to see companies really step up or fall behind in the next year.
Yeah, I on the way to Cannes, I sat next to an AI attorney, and it was the most fascinating conversation. And it was just really interesting how he's.
They're going to make a lot of money very quickly, I would imagine.
He seems very, very busy. Let's just put it that way. Christine, what do you think?
So I think GPT is here to stay. I was thinking about this as GPT being this new generation social media, because I'm seeing the use cases of people around me in the younger generation, like using GPT to test the sentiment of a text message you're sending to someone. Or like my niece used it the other day. I was taking her to the opera, and she's like, GPT, can you please summarize Don Giovanni in emoji form? And but it's just the way that people are holding on to I think it is going to be another channel, another way to engage with audiences. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And then the other piece of it, I think, you know, the trust aspect of it, I really would like to think that in the next couple months and going into a year that we're not just talking about trust, but really have solutions that really bake in to have that trust from the consumer around data.
Yeah, and the transparency.
And the transparency to do that,
yeah.
Right? And to really scale AI the right way in an ethical manner.
Yeah. I've been using it as a co-pilot to some sort, right, to help. And actually, it's been really super helpful. So, Purvi, what do you think?
I think both Colin and Christine made great points. I'll maybe answer the question like from an enterprise perspective. I think that there is just so much demand for like guidelines and governance within organizations on how to use it, what approved use cases are, you know, what everyone is using it. Everyone has used ChatGPT. I'd be surprised if anyone here hasn't at least played around with it. And so people are using it, you know, regardless of what approved use cases and guidelines are. And I think organizations really need to get ahead of that. And build that governance into, you know, how employees are using the technology. And I think we will also see like winners start to emerge where trust is, you know, their kind of guiding star and their true north. I think that's what consumers want. They want transparency. They also want the convenience and the personalization. And so we've just got to get ahead of it and get it right.
Yeah, that's great. So we've got a couple minutes left. Would love to open it up for any questions from anybody out in the audience. You want to open this up? Any questions?
I think they're all busy drinking coffee and eating croissants at the moment.
That's exactly right.
I don't see any rosé yet.
Everybody's a little slow this morning, right?
Yes,
Without
exactly.
the rosé. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. We have actually a great piece of thought leadership called Mind the Gap. I think we'll have it up, and there will be a QR code for everybody. But thank you guys this morning for spending
Thanks
a
for
little
having us.
time
Appreciate it.
talking about customer data and AI.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.